Hi, I'm Clint Allen. Welcome to Hard Basis. And we've got 5 videos to react to today. And I'm here to tell you, we are in for a financial butt kicking if this Iran war does not stop soon and we get back to normal living here. Wait to see what I woke up to this morning.
So I came up with a joke the other day, an analogy. I don't know, here it is. Joe Biden and the Democrats get in 2020 and change the face and screw up America to the best of their ability. Donald Trump gets in and says, "Hold my beer. I'm going to go f*** up the whole world." That's it. We're literally planning our runs today based on the exact amount of fuel that we need.
When you're negotiating with Iran, Mr. President, to what extent are Americans' financial situations motivating you to make a deal?
Not even a little bit. The only thing that matters when I'm talking about Iran, they can't have a nuclear weapon. I don't think about Americans' financial situation. I don't think about anybody. I think about one thing. We cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. That's all. That's the only thing that motivates.
I understand, okay? And I only understand to a point. Follow me, okay? If we're the greatest military in the world, supposedly, why are we worried about Iran having nuclear weapons? If they were to do something stupid, we could go in there and completely obliterate them in a very short period of time. I think it would be best maybe if we would work with them. You know, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. We keep on being told that they're weeks away, months away from having nuclear weapons, but yet the data don't support it. It never has. I'm underneath the firm belief that this was nothing more than an excuse. A big excuse because the petrodollar is going down the toilet. By the time that Donald Trump leaves the White House, I am going to project that we're going to be almost 50 trillion in the toilet. Where we're at is unsustainable, okay? And the only way that it can stay sustainable is if the world keeps on buying our worthless treasuries. You know, if you want to start a cryptocurrency, you have to buy United States Treasury bonds. So I believe this is more about the petrodollar. We've started wars in the past before, supposedly to save a nickel on fuel. No, we started wars in the past because those countries started trading oil, selling oil for other currencies, when the whole world is supposed to be using the American dollar. This has more to do with the petrodollar than anything else. We lose the petrodollar, we are screwed, glued, tattooed. We are bankrupt. You can't print your way out of it because the money is worthless. You can't cover your debt because you don't make any money, because inflation will be so high through the roof, nobody will be able to buy anything, much less pay their taxes. It is the end of United States as we know it. So let's take a look at this next one here.
Is this whole thing with Hormuz seems to be engineered to reset the globe. And what's about to happen is things are just about to disappear. Okay? In terms of the oil, I have an article I'm going to leave below, and it goes over all the numbers and all the data. Okay? And it shows clearly that the last ship that filled up with oil that came out of Hormuz has already came to the port of Long Beach and dropped that off on May 3rd. It's gone. It's out of here. You can expect there's nothing coming behind it. They're saying that we are projected to run out of usable oil by the 4th of July of this year if we don't get this together, get it opened up, and get things moving. So what's going to happen is you're not going to see, per se, $6, $7, $8 gas in some places. You're just not going to see it.
And that's a very, high possibility. It is, oil is a global market, okay? So Russia basically owns its own oil fields, okay? China, the other great threat to us, they're screwed. Yeah, they have to buy their oil from the cheapest bidder, okay? Now, China isn't stupid. Unlike us, who, Joe Biden and Donald Trump and previous people who were head of our country in the White House pissed away our reserves that we had sitting, okay, in order to keep the public in check emotionally and to keep oil prices low. They burned through that. We're at the point, according to reports from people who are supposed to know, we're at the bottom. We're at the point in our reserves where you can't suck anything out, period. Exclamation mark, we're cooked. So can the president go to the oil companies that are in the United States and say, well, you're only going to sell it to us? Maybe, but we're still going to have to pay market. Now, here's an interesting fact, okay? The commodity market is pretty much a sham, okay? So we're all like, wow, how much is oil going to be today? Well, let's go look at spot crude, spot Brent, spot sweet crude. Well, it's at $100 or $110 a barrel. Okay, but if you actually want to buy it, it's more like $130 to $150 a barrel, plus the cost of shipping, plus the cost of refinery. That's the truth and the facts. Could we see pumps empty? Yeah, if it takes a while to get oil to the refinery and the refinery to do its job, yeah, you could see pumps with a lot of signs on them all over the place saying that we have no fuel. Hasn't been the first time it happened. Let's check out this next one.
Just got word, Mobil and Shell have informed Costco and Walmart They have no packaged product to send them, and to expect bare shelves in the motor oil section in a few weeks. I just went to my local Walmart. They were stocked pretty heavily. It looked very stocked, but like it was only like 1 or 2 jugs deep. The Walmart brand had a decent bit more, but like Shell was pretty low and like Valvoline was pretty low. So I imagine more people are going to be putting Walmart oil in their cars, which it might be great. I don't know. Is it like the Amazon Basics oil? Maybe. And then he also added, for those who think I am making this up, Toyota is about to release a service bulletin stating you can temporarily use OW20 in lieu of OW8 and OW16 because the Shell Pearl GTL facility in Ras Laffan, Qatar is completely offline, and we are going to run out of OW20 soon. Bookmark it. So that's what he said. That is the claim being made.
And here we go, you know. Obviously, fuel prices are high. Refineries are going to devote more to putting fuel for us, which there has to be a hole somewhere. And the hole is motor oil. Motor oil is going to go through the roof. It has to. Okay. Anything made out of plastic has got to go through the roof. Anything that is produced that has to have petroleum involved, I mean, right on down to Vaseline, is going to go through the roof. Now, just so you're understanding, and I'm going to get to it here shortly, we're not seeing the end of this, okay? I'll give you a little hint. Next year's spring, our food costs are going to be through the roof. You thought food was expensive right now? Wait. Check this out.
With a halt at the Strait of Hormuz, the U.S. oil supply gap is here, and Californians could soon face the worst supply crisis in the U.S. And at Chevron's Southern California refinery, we saw it for ourselves. 60% of its crude oil comes from overseas, and critically, 25% of its gasoline and 20% of its jet fuel. And while oil can move freely across most of the U.S., in California, it cannot. The massive web of pipelines carrying crude oil and fuel across state lines can't come into California, in part because of mountain ranges, desert, and of course, politics. That's because of a century-old law, the Jones Act, requiring vessels shipping oil between U.S. ports to be American-owned, crewed, and built, making it cheaper for California to import oil from Asia or the Middle East. The Trump administration has issued a temporary waiver allowing for lenience on the act, but it may be too little too late.
And it is too little too late. Now, I don't care, you know, it's not a political channel, but let's just frickin' face it here, okay? Joe Biden and his, merry band of fucking clowns screwed up the United States majorly. He did so much backwards, stupid crap after all these years that he was in politics. That presidency was his payback. What do I mean by that? He had to pay back all the people, all the companies that handed him over all that money for him to keep on getting reelected over and over and over again. He didn't care about any of us. None whatsoever. Republicans get in. We're made a lot of promises. Yes, some of them have been kept. A rarity. But besides the big, beautiful bill, which really wasn't that big and wasn't really that beautiful, the Republicans, same old game plan. Go back through YouTube, okay? you'll see Ted Cruz, and you'll see Ron Johnson, and you'll see the other Johnson, and you'll see all these people who are on the Republican side, who are in the Senate or in the House, and they're like, boy, when we get in, we're going to do this, and then we're going to do that, and we're going to do that, and then we're going to do this, and we're going to straighten this all out. They haven't done nothing. They haven't done a darn thing. All this stuff that they have an opportunity to right now, because they have the House and the Senate, and I'm sure that they can, corrupt and pay off some Democrat to vote with them so they can get the votes that they need. They could go in there and really make some serious changes, some excellent changes for our future. We keep on hearing this BS about, illegal stock trading. They could easily put a bill up and get it handled. But do you think that's going to happen? No. These people, as you well know, go in there, can't afford a nickel for a coffee, and they come out billionaires, millionaires. They got money falling out of their butt, and they get all these board consulting businesses for these companies that they're doing favors for, that are paying them millions of dollars that they never show up for. Once again, we are cooked. Let that sink in. Let's move on to the last one here.
Just how bad could this get?
Well, with respect to food prices, it's hard to know exactly where it goes, Chris, because it's obviously the cost of transportation pushes up the cost of food that's delivered to grocery stores. And then there's the fertilizer issue in the planting season that we're going through right now that's forcing some farmers to cut back on the amount of planting they're doing. So down the road, we could see something of a supply shock, although albeit a small one here in the United States, to the amount of, grains and other grown foods that are available. And in addition to that, you just got a broad-based now move upward in inflation. The energy price shock, if you will likely lead to $5 gasoline, irrespective of what the energy secretary had to say. We probably see that in the short run. And then that also bleeds over into other categories of goods, airline prices, and so on and so forth. And so you're seeing this really become a more broad-based problem. Tomorrow we're going to get a consumer price report. Wednesday we'll get a wholesale inflation read. Friday we have Kevin Warsh likely taking over Jay Powell as chair of the Fed. He wants to lower interest rates. This is not exactly the environment in which that can happen.
Okay. President Trump found a lapdog that's going to be taking over the Fed Reserve, which is supposed to be, not attached to the United States government with the fiat money scam that we're, pulling, okay? Realistically, and I don't understand the thinking behind this. So if inflation is really high, you raise interest rates. It's supposed to make people stop buying stuff. That way the producers and the wholesalers and stuff like that are forced to lower their prices. So how can you lower your prices when you need to pay your people more? Insurance has gone through the roof. Building has gone through the roof. Property taxes has gone through the roof. Utilities have gone through. Everything has gone through the roof. Just bam, shot up. For Pete's sakes, my property taxes 2 years ago went up $460. Last year, they went up another $420. This needs to get under control here. And this is what I mean about the Republicans or Democrats, whatever side holds the House, holds the when they have a moral majority, well, I shouldn't say moral, there's nothing moral about them. When they have a major majority, okay, they could go in there and say, look, property taxes are based on what you need, not just raise the shit because you can. This is the only stuff that is allowed to be taken for property taxes. So you got public schools, you got this, that, the other thing. That's it. If you got some other crazy plan that you want to go fund people who are crossing the border illegally and pay for their housing, food, and give everything away to them for free, that's your problem. You figure it out. But property taxes are only to be covered for this. If you got a lot of businesses that are leaving your community, guess what? You need to figure out a way to raise the money and not raise the property taxes. Common sense stuff just like that, okay? But no, they keep on tapping us and tapping us and tapping us over and over again. I'm tapped out. Hell, I run my own business. I make a good income. I'm tapped out. They have just screwed, glued, and tattooed all of us to the wall. Top amounts, the most amount of credit card debt ever in the United States. Whose fault is that? When did that begin? When the Democrats got in, Joe Biden and his merry band of fucking corrupt idiots. It continues with the Trump man, because we had to go start a war that we had no business starting. None. Zero. Goose egg. Don't care what you want to say. If you can give me a legit reason down in the comments of why we needed to start this war, I'd really like to hear it. The stock market. Oh, well, the stock market is it's at the highest it's ever been. The stock market has changed. You and I and everybody can trade on the stock market. Jeez, I got to get that out, huh? Of course, volume is going to be high. There's larger investment firms. There's larger 401ks. Everything is larger. The volume is going to be moving more than what it was before. We live in different times. The stock market is not an indicator on how the United States is doing. Period. We can't get the truth from the government of what the real unemployment rate is. We can't get the truth from the government of what the actual real inflation rate is. We can't get the truth from the government on anything. Period. What we can get the truth from is outline statistics that say that people are buried in credit card debt. Why? Because the credit card companies keep on handing out more credit cards over and over and up and down and in between. Why? Because they're insured. The government allows them to insure their delinquencies. So when you go delinquent on your $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $100,000 in credit card debt, the credit card company gets a large portion of that back, and then they sell it to a company who comes and sues you for pennies on the dollar, and that's how they make their money. But I promised you a bonus here. The repossession industry, okay? The repossession industry has been in peril for years. The finance and banking companies refuse to pay more for their needed services, okay? So last year, late last year, the Banking and Finance Industry Association said that, okay, mass delinquencies are so bad, we're going to start trying to work with these people, and we're going to go and stop repossessions currently unless they're, drastically behind. And we're going to see if we can rewrite their loans. We're going to see if we can get them caught up, stuff like that. Now, I've been in the repossession industry for 26 years. I've yet, in 26 years, seen an increase in fees from a finance company. But they have huge end of the year corporate profits. I've got a different video that I put up actually breaking down how much more they could pay us based on the amount of cars that they have to repossess per year, and it wouldn't even, it would be a rounding error at their end of the year profit. So they're just being a corporation like corporations do. Well, we can screw the people. Now we're going to start screwing businesses. But a couple weeks ago, the Banking and Financing Association sent a letter to the American Repossession Association, and let me read this to you. Okay. ARA, American Recovery Association, April 23rd, 2026. AAA, ARA Advisory, understanding the recent slowdown in repossession activity. The American Recovery Association is issuing this advisory in response to the recent slowdown in assignment volume being experienced across the repossession industry. And I can attest, it just didn't slow down, man. It came almost to a screeching halt. Initially, many attribute this decline to seasonal factors, particularly tax season when customers use their refund to bring their accounts current. However, it is now clear that what we are seeing is not temporary. A broader shift is underway. Financial institutions are increasingly adjusting their recovery strategies. Accounts that were once placed for repossession at 60 days, which that's not true, it's 30 days, past due, are now often being held off for 120 days or longer. As lenders work to keep consumers in their vehicles while delinquencies may be rising, assignment flow is being delayed, reduced, or in some cases completely eliminated. If they repossess a vehicle, sometimes by the time they get done sending it to auction and get it sold, in some cases you're better off just leaving the people with the car. At the same time, many agencies are now feeling margin pressure. Fixed expenses tied to truck staffing, debt incurred during the recent high volume period are not adjusting at the same pace that the decline or delay in the assignments are. This creates a tightening environment where cash flow and cost control become very critical. Deep shift in subprime market. Okay, subprime market is people who shouldn't be allowed to buy cars, period, or get a credit card. They don't have the financial responsibility. High interest, long-term loans, 30% plus interest on loans. Some of these, some of these people are financing $20,000 cars and the interest rate's $24,000. So in the end, you have $44,000 total loan, but they can't pay us anymore. Criminals, just like our government. A deeper shift in the subprime market. This slowdown is occurring alongside growing instability within the subprime auto sector factor. Recent workforce reductions at Credit Acceptance Corporation reflect declining loan origins, tightening credit, and weakening loan performance. At the same time, lender failures continue to impact this industry. The shutdown of auto Automotive Credit Corporation has left agencies with unpaid balances, no clear path to recovery, with the company stating that it is not currently in the position to make payments on existing balances. For many, this mirrors the Tricolor Holdings collapse. Tricolor Holdings is a huge buy here, pay here over in the western part of the United States. And, if you can breathe and make it in the door, you got yourself a car, okay? So, as well as others, recent lender exits, well, exits is quite political, they went bankrupt, where agencies were left with unsecured creditors absorbing significant losses. These events point to a familiar cycle. Rising borrowing stress, delayed recoveries, reduced lending, and increasing financial pressure across the industry. Now, I was caught up a little bit in that Tricolor finance thing. For some odd strange reason, a lot of people think that it come from Texas to Wisconsin. And a lot of them are, non-English speaking, Mexicans or South Americans, stuff like that, who are used to a hot environment. I bet you that's a shock to them when winter comes here. Woo! Guidance to the industry. The environment results in discipline, informed decision making. Be cautious with spending and expansion. Avoid major purchases or growing decisions based on the expected volume that may be not materializing. Protect your cash flow. Monitor receivables closely and address aging balances quickly, especially with high-risk clients. Evaluate client risk. Treat your clients the same way that you would evaluate borrowers. If you do not assess their financial stability before accepting work from them, you are taking on a risk that may not pay. Strengthen payment protections. Consider retainers or tightening terms appropriate, accepting work with safeguards, extending unsecured credit. Align operations with reality. Adjust staffing, assets, and expenses to reflect current but not projected assignment levels. Moving forward, the recent slowdown is provided to be more than a seasonal event. It reflects a larger structural change within the lending environment that will continue to influence the repossession industry. ARA remains committed to supporting its members through this period with continual guidance, market awareness, and blah, blah, blah. We urge all agencies to remain vigilant and protect their businesses and approach the environment with both caution and discipline. Truly yours, the American Recovery Association. Anyways, the American Recovery Association is, they throw a shitload of parties. As far as being a effective part of the repossession industry, no. There's a group of people there that really need to pull up their frickin' dresses and find a pair. Period. Because they're weak and they won't put the foot down. So they charge, I think it's like $1,300 a year for their membership so you can get a whole bunch of parties to go to. Talk about the industry, which they have a bunch of classes and they have a bunch of, speakers come up there, but in the end it's just a way for us to get out of the office and go somewhere and sit in the sun and play golf, and it has very little actually to do with changing the industry at all. But the point is that it's gotten so bad that finance companies are now even afraid to repossess their vehicles. If we were to stay in full force for repossessing vehicles like we previously were years back, there wouldn't be room at the auction for them. There'd be so many cars flooded out on the market that the values would actually start sinking substantially. We're in a heck of a time. We are in one heck of a time. We are in one big old situation here that even if the Iran war stopped today, even if the Ukraine and Putin war stopped today, according to industry experts, it would take 6 years, if nothing else happened. 6 years to get back on track again. So, now I don't put much stake in this, okay, but let's jump over to ChatGTP. Because when you need something answered, you go to a computer that's been pre-programmed to answer shit the way you want to hear it. If the Iran war in the United States ended today, how long before fuel prices would drop down, fuel and food prices would drop down to 2024 values levels? ChatGTP went through and here's the answer. Predicting exactly how long fuel and fuel prices would take to return to, let's say, 2024 levels, it is a hypothetical if a hypothetical Iran war ended today, is complicated because prices are influenced by multiple interconnecting factors, global supply chains, production rates, geopolitical stability, and market sentiment. But here's a detailed breakdown now that I uncommitted myself, meaning ChatGPT. Fuel prices, gasoline, diesel, crude oil. Estimated time frame, 6 to 18 months before it would return down to the levels that we seen just a few years ago. Food prices, 18 to 32 months before they would return to levels that we were seeing just a few years ago. Other considerations, currency fluctuations. If the US dollar strengthens after peace, imports may become cheaper and faster. Market speculation. If the war ends, trading may keep price levels until certainty is fully restored. Supply chain shocks, damage, and disruption to shipping routes could delay normalization, which, if you've been watching the news, you've been watching YouTube, whatever the case may be, not only has the wars caused bombings of other facilities around the world, especially down in the Middle East there, for their petroleum businesses. They're pulling stuff out of the ground. Their well systems, stuff like that, have been blown up. Well, the war ends. This doesn't change tomorrow. It takes a long time to put a well back in and get it back up and operating. So we're really cooked for several years here, even if the war ends. And I don't see this war ending anytime soon. I understand, partially, once again, where the Trump man's coming from. And I also have to say, if we're the biggest and the greatest military in the world, with all these satellites overhead, all we had to do is just watch. Once there was a issue, a real issue, we actually see a missile. Our spies on the inside said, yes, they've actually got a missile. Then you go in and blow the fucking obliteration out of them, which I still don't think we have any business doing anyways. But anyways, for more insight, different from what you're used to getting, well, you know what to do. Subscribe, like, comment, go itch your butt, behind closed doors. And we'll see you on the next one.